Howdy, folks. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, Katie and I are going to be answering one, maybe two questions from our listeners. Maybe three questions from our listeners. Maybe more. And so stay tuned for that. Before we jump into your questions, though, we want to let you know that there is still time to join the Voetberg Music Academy's fall competition, which is happening in October. This is a competition where we're giving away prize money for the top places, the top 5 places in both age groups for piano, guitar, and fiddle. There's only going to be one age group for ukulele and mandolin.
So that's going to be like 30 winners or something, or 40 winners?
Not winners, but people get money.
Well, I call that a winner.
Yeah. There will only be, 6, 8, 9? I think there'll be, or 8 winners. There'll be 8 first place winners.
Wow.
9, because I forgot of our collaboration division. We added a division, and that is the collaboration division. So if you want to play a duet or a family band ensemble, or you get together with your friends and come up with a rendition of a tune, you can also join in a separate division and have an opportunity to win some more cash money. This is the other question we get too. Can you join multiple divisions? Yes, you can. You can join, not multiple age divisions, because something's going on if you can compete in the 12 and under and the 13 and over age group, but you can join multiple instrument divisions. So anyways, check the link below for that. There's still time to sign up. There's still time to get started and even join as a beginner. If you want to take a few weeks worth of lessons and then jump in, you should do that as well. Anyways, let's go ahead and get this. Actually, before we do that though, folks, I need to tell you, if you enjoy this podcast, we would appreciate it if you're able to leave a rating or a review on whatever platform you listen on. And if you watch us on YouTube, if you hit the like button or subscribe or leave a comment, that helps our podcast reach more people, which enables us to keep doing this and have more guests on that we really appreciate and admire and get to learn from, and hopefully gets introduced to you as well. So anyways, if you're able to do any of those things, we would appreciate it. And if you've done any of those things, we really appreciate it. We will now get this thing going.
The Now That We're a Family podcast.
Yeah, big exhale.
Are you not going to let our audience know what feat I just accomplished?
You went upstairs to check on the kids.
In record time.
In record time. Elisha sped up the stairs. He sped back down the stairs, and he is back, folks. Some people ask, where are your kids when you're recording the episodes? And that's a fair question, because we do have 6 children. And we typically record after we put them to bed in the evenings, and we are below them in the podcast studio. So when we hear little feet running around up there, Elisha goes up in record time and makes sure that nothing is a mess.
Yeah.
Glad to have you back, Elisha.
Hey, it's good to be back, and I've caught my breath at this point, so I think we can jump right in to these questions. Katie, are you ready for this one?
Yes.
Cool. Hi, Elisha and Katie. I am curious about what you think about podcasting /YouTube /social media for a business. My husband and I are looking for ways to make a little more income. He has a good job, but we dream of buying land and building a house someday, and it just seems impossible to do that right now without a separate source of income. I'm hoping to start a small business selling a Catholic homemaking planner that I'm currently designing, and from the research I have done, the best way to sell something online these days is to have a platform, be it YouTube, Instagram, a podcast, etc. I'm hesitant, however, to start one of these because it just seems to me like there is enough content out there already, and I do not feel comfortable giving people more videos to watch, more Instagram posts to scroll through, etc. Not to mention, I don't feel comfortable talking about my life to the world. On the flip side, I think that that is good to have good influences like you. Thank you. In the social media space also, YouTube does seem like the way to make money right now. Anyways, curious as to what you think about all of this. 1, do I need a platform to sell my products? 2, is it morally okay to produce more content to scroll and watch when I don't think people should be scrolling and watching videos all day? Thank you.
It is a conundrum. I mean, I admire all the thought that listeners put into her question. And I do feel like that is the merry-go-round that a lot of us go around when considering these things. It really is. And I mean, because you're Catholic, you could just see if the church says anything about it. That's the nice thing about being Catholic, honestly.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, see if the church has spoken to it. But from my perspective, I don't think anything is morally wrong about creating content on any platform, really.
I will say just on that.
What would you say? What would you say? I'd love to hear that.
She says that she feels like there's already enough content out there already, and I think there's not enough
of the right content.
Right, of the right content.
Yes. Yes.
Again, this is coming from like, I guess, a content creator. When everybody's like, "Hey, do you think I should start?" I'm like, "Yes."
Yeah.
Like, if it's a Christian person that wants to speak about parenting, fatherhood, arts and crafts, business, health, I don't care what the topic is. To me, I'm always like, yes, like just start being another Christian voice in the space. So that's mine.
Yes, like a deluge of Christianity hitting everywhere is a beautiful thing. And the online world is just as much a physical presence in the world that we live in as, setting up on the street corner, maybe more so. And so your voice, it's not like it's going to be unique to you, and it is going to also be a trumpet of Christ. And so that's a wonderful thing. And the world can't have enough people proclaiming God and his goodness. So there's that. From a very personal standpoint, saying you don't want to share your life or you don't want to share there are things that you give up to have a platform. In terms of you have to share something that someone wants to listen to. So you can commentate on culture. You can share some lifestyle stuff. If you don't want to do that, you can share thoughts on something else. But there is an element of vulnerability that you pay to play. And it's frustrating, honestly. There's times when I'm just kind of like, I want out. I don't want to talk about life right now, or I don't want to talk about my thoughts on things or whatever. And but there is that element of that is the currency that the online world runs on, is your voice. And so you're going to have to share something in return for having people listen to you. And that's going to be a personal decision. I don't know what you would say to that, Elisha.
Yeah, well, I already said that thing about I don't think there is too much or enough Christian content in the online space, right? I think we could just use a ton more of it. So in regards to the two questions, one being, do I need a platform to sell my product? No, you don't need a platform to sell your product. You don't need your own platform to sell your product, right? Or I should really say it depends. Actually, the answer is to that question. It's like, do you have any budget for marketing? And I think something that we've learned in now the 10 years, which is crazy, of running business. Well, we haven't been content creators for 10 years online, but we've been trying to run a business for about 10 years now. I say trying and mostly succeeding, right? Here towards the end, figuring it out.
The Lord is very blessed, has very much blessed, and you have worked very hard.
Right. When we started our businesses, our first goal was to make money with our businesses, right? So we had products, the Online Music Academy, an MLM where we were selling vitamins. And so we didn't want to create a platform other than for the reality of just selling products, and we didn't have a marketing budget. And so that was the reality of our life at the time.
Wait, we didn't want to, what did you say?
I'm saying we
started creating content straight up as marketing.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes, exactly. It's like, okay, we were trying to build businesses. And so we viewed all the social media outlets as marketing resources. And it sounds like that's how they're viewing these marketing resources as well. And I do think that you can view them as two different things. And this is what I've learned in retrospect. Because what's bizarre now is it's like we almost have a platform that can be separate from our businesses, and our business can be separate from our platform. And I think that had we have focused on just one from the beginning, this is all retrospect, and you can say I'm wrong. If we just would have focused on one from the beginning, I think it would have been more successful quickly. I do think there is something to the whole Chinese proverb that he that chaseth two rabbits catcheth neither. And so if you've got a business, I think you view it as a business. And so in your case, the Catholic homemaking planner, crush that. Get your margins figured out. That this is anytime you're dealing with a physical product, like margins become a factor big time, right? And when it's with
tariffs now, that's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, and when it's something that's not a high ticket item, you're thinking, okay, I'm going to be having to market to the masses. And so you were thinking, how do I get this not to hundreds of people, but to hundreds of thousands, in front of hundreds of thousands of people, and don't have that discourage you. You start with hundreds and then you start with thousands. But if you want it to be a meaningful income, and if you're bringing home, $10 a purchase, after costs, you just need to sell a lot of those things. And and the nice thing is that you can probably turn this into reoccurring, but this isn't reoccurring from the beginning, right? It's a one-off. You can probably make it annual where people, they want to come back for repeat business and buy the one for the next season and the next season with things like planners. But it's not like this reoccurring revenue from the beginning, right? You'd have to design another one and come out with another one, which you can totally do. But if you just treated the business as a business, then you would inevitably have to figure out marketing. Okay, marketing is a factor for your business. Do you want someone else to do your marketing, or do you want to do your marketing? And again, just from our own experience with really all the businesses that we've created, if we would have viewed it as a business, and if we had anything regarding a budget, resembling a budget for marketing, it probably would have grown faster if we would have used other people's platforms earlier on for our marketing. But we didn't have a marketing budget, so we said, let's grow a platform to market our products. And so they've both grown simultaneously. And I think that if we would have done just one or the other, they would have grown. That one that we chose would have grown faster. And so being honest with you and your husband, just figuring out, like, what's our business plan? Are we setting aside a certain amount of money each month for marketing? And that money might be better spent, paying other Instagrammers, paying other YouTubers, and paying other podcasters to sell this product for us than it would be for us trying to start that platform. But if you don't have the money, then that is your best option is getting an Instagram account and taking taking photos of your planner, or taking stories of your planner, and just getting that out in front of people. That's my opinion.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I would just say that.
Yeah,
you could buy people's audiences, or you can grow your own. And there's just, like you said, sometimes both are an option, and sometimes only one is an option. So you just have to decide what your marketing is going to be. But I do think you're right off in starting with the product, starting with the business in mind. That is what we did in the beginning, like Elisha said. And I'm very grateful for that, because we didn't end up selling out in terms of taking random deals for our platform or whatever, because we were keeping our long-term customers in mind, which we wanted to, buy products that were really meaningful to us, that we were the creators of.
Yeah. And then just to my answer to the second question, is it morally okay to produce more content? I already answered that. And yeah, I think this is, again, just being, if you need to view that as a separate thing, I guess is what I'm saying. If you've got your business. Now, if you start a podcast or a YouTube channel or a very active Instagram, I know a lot of businesses have Instagram accounts that are more just kind of adjacent to their business. But I think if you wanted to actually grow your business, you need to view it as its own thing. And so maybe just have that in mind. I think it's great if you start a podcast or a YouTube or an Instagram. Just make sure you view it like, okay, this is a serious thing here. It's not that serious. I'm making it sound like, well, this is a really important thing. It's like, if you need to put time and intentionality into it, just as you are your business.
Yes. So like if you're doing home management or with your product, then adding free value alongside your product will be super helpful in that sphere.
Exactly.
So, you probably already know this, but because you want to do a planner, home management, then teaching women home management online is what's going to attract your ideal customer. And you could probably do that in a awesome way. I do think the world needs more content like that, for sure, on a podcast or something like that, where you aren't having to show your kids or bring a camera into your home, or just, completely unbear your life. Is that a word? Unbear
sure.
something?
Yeah, unbear.
Just bear your life, maybe. You can do that. And I think that would attract a lot of interest.
Yes,
from
absolutely.
your ideal customer who would eventually buy your planner. So.
Yes, I agree. And I'm not saying the two can't complement each other, because, like you said, your product may have a ton of just baked in content right now already, where it's just easy content for you to create a podcast on or create Instagram posts for. And so if it's already there, then it's like, yeah, no brainer, create that thing. for it.
Yeah. Something my grandma said that she has passed away, but something she tried to listen to all of our podcasts, and we were doing Instagram at the time and YouTube at the time. She was like, I can't keep up. And I remember one week we didn't do an episode, and she emailed and said, well, I think it's good you didn't do an episode this week so that people don't have to watch it. And it was a sweet way of her kind of feeling overwhelmed with the content and thinking, well, you know, maybe if you don't create content, people won't be on their computers. But that's just not, unfortunately, how the logic follows. If people have to have their self-control and their own boundaries, but if we aren't creating content, then it just means someone else is creating content that they're viewing. And so creating more content isn't going to create more bad habits, I guess, in people.
Nice.
I don't think that logic doesn't follow, basically.
Right.
The people who are going to watch something. Are they going to be watching you, or are they going to be watching someone else?
Right.
And the people who aren't going to be watching things aren't going to be watching anybody anyways. So that's great.
Yeah.
But you aren't, in creating content, aren't the result of someone else's like media addiction.
Yes. Yeah. That's good. Next question.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello. What is your thought process on a husband taking a stance that a wife cut off her childhood friendships? I want to let him lead in this and submit, but I see it so differently. Recently, it has come to light that prior to our marriage, while we were dating, my much younger self and friends sinned and kept several of these secrets from my husband in our young adult rebellious years. My husband has graciously forgave me, but he does not want me to remain in contact in any way to my lifelong friends. They are Christians, but not the strongest walk. My stance, but not in the strongest way. My stance is that I'd like to just distance myself from them without their knowledge, rather than sending a harsh message and blocking them and losing all contact abruptly. Our lives are very much woven together with friendships of 25 years, so it makes it very painful.
Okay, I'm smiling and laughing because
Whoa,
of your
Katie.
face while you were reading this. Why are you smirking? And don't say you aren't.
I didn't know I was smirking, but you shouldn't be smiling.
Well, you definitely were. So I'm laughing at you. I don't think this is a laughing matter, obviously. What are your thoughts, though?
Yeah, I mean, it's
You clearly have
unfortunate. It honestly, I feel like the goal of this person, I think, is a good goal. It sounds like she would like to distance herself without their knowledge, rather than a harsh message. If you're able to execute that, then do that. But
Well, I mean, not against her husband's desire.
why? It doesn't say that that's against her husband's desire. I don't think she's saying like he wants me to send a harsh message.
Oh, okay. I thought that was the option. I thought that's what he wanted her to do.
No. So if he doesn't think this being effective, then I think you need to honor your husband. Like if your effort to subtly and kind of covertly, separate yourself isn't, I guess,
Effective, yeah.
effective in your husband's eyes, then I do think you should go to greater lengths, right, to cut those relationships off. But I do think this is a part of leaving and cleaving, becoming one. You are forsaking. Yeah, you're forsaking all others. And people look at that in regards to the romantic way. It's like, this is the only spouse I have. But you really are forsaking all others in prioritizing your spouse, right? Like no other is going to have the same importance to you anymore than your spouse. And so if that means some friends from your past that your spouse seems as being unhelpful, or they have a hard time, trusting you around, or they just think they don't bring out the best in you, that would mean forsaking those friends too, in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah? That's all you have to say?
I agree with you.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Elisha and I had this early on in marriage where Elisha had, honestly, we're all great friends now. We're all good friends now. But initially when we first got married, there was just so much tumultuousness around our getting married. And there was so much drama just coming from outside parties that I really had a desire. And honestly, Elisha just had best friends and it wasn't me. And so for whatever reason, there was this insecurity that came from me, because I felt like he would go to these other friends and tell them what he was really feeling and tell them what he thought about, and he had this intimacy with them that we didn't share. And so you were really gracious in distancing yourself for a period of time, I felt like, for our relationship to get root, to prove to me that I was who you cared about, where your loyalties lay. And then also it gave us time to develop a deeper sense of trust and understanding for each other. And so I think that could be something too, even in this relationship. It sounds like there is a lack of trust there with these friendships in our listener situation, where the husband wants to trust his wife, but there is just a lack of trust when it comes to these people because of what happened. And so I think honoring his fears there and building back up that trust.
It might not be a lack of trust in you, like in his wife.
Yes.
But in the friends.
In the friends. Yeah. That they don't have his best interest in mind, or your best interest in mind. If they don't have his best interest in mind, then they don't have your best interest in mind. And so just, I would just say that's a no-brainer, even though it would be hard to distance yourself for the sake of your husband. And like you said, if you can avoid, a real dramatic situation, I mean, that would definitely be my desire.
Ideal.
That's very ideal, because then maybe there is a way that they can come back in your life at a certain point if everyone's more mature and everyone trusts each other more or whatever, or not. But there is just this, more gradual thing. But I would also honor your husband if he has a desire for you to say, hey, to write something up together. And if it's too harsh, let him, you could soften it a bit, make your petition to him. Hey, can I soften this?
Yep.
And be more gracious. But it's...
marriage is more valuable than our earthly marriages here to our spouse are the most valuable relationship we have here on earth. And so you say, it is 25 years of friendship, but that's like, I don't care how many people it is that you have that 25-year history with. It's not as valuable as your relationship with your spouse. Like that is now the most valuable thing that you have here on earth. And I think when you have that perspective, you can have a longer term perspective. You will be ridiculed by some people for having that perspective, and you will be.
This is not going to be a popular response,
right? And we're around this. We haven't experienced this personally in our family, or sorry, like with you and I necessarily ridicule, but we hear about it a lot, right? Like with our friends, our in-person friends, we hear about a lot of the ridicule they'll receive from old college friends or friends from high school, or even family, because they are prioritizing their marriage and their family.
I think we definitely get ridicule, Elisha.
By family?
No, not by family, but
by
definitely, definitely people who know us,
Sure, maybe we do. Maybe I just don't let it. Maybe I don't choose to be aware of it.
Our close friends.
Yeah.
And I do want to say my giggle at the beginning there. It's not that I'm taking this lightly. It's that I think Elisha and I can relate to early on in our marriage. This was over friendships. This was a really big thing. I was very irrational about it, and so that was more what I was, laughing about. It wasn't that this situation is trivial or anything like that, because I do think it means a lot, and it's a big deal when you're having to choose between friends.
Okay, next question.
Yeah, okay.
Great. Okay, Katie, you grew up with a lot of sisters. I have all girls, and the oldest is 15. How do you help them not to be so concerned about their looks and style, and have a balance to not look like a slob when it comes to time and effort in getting ready each day?
Oh man, this would be something my mom could speak to for sure, because there's two sides of the ditch, and you could fall in both of them in the same day. I felt like we would, I've shared the story before about us girls in high school. We would sit down at the table, and my dad would be like, girls, it's time to change the oil. It's time to change the oil. And we knew he was talking about the grease in our hair, because we would just be total slobs. And then, that evening would be an event, and we're trying on 20 dresses, trying to get ready. And, it was all of a sudden all how we looked. And so some of us were more slobs than others, but I would say most of us were. Okay. Most of us struggled with that when we were home, with being slobbish when we were home. And then And I mean, my sisters can correct me on this. They can say down below, like, I was not, or whatever. But I think what's funny is in marriage, all of us put a lot more effort in daily now. But like I just called my sister the other day and I was like, you just look amazing. But I think that's because we saw our mother get dressed every day in marriage and associate that, like her example, with what it looks like to be a wife and a mother. And that's just, you get ready for the day. And for whatever reason, growing up, I just didn't correlate that with my life. And then also just caring so much about your looks, though. I mean, I definitely fell into that ditch. And I can't speak for all my sisters, but considering how many times we got into fights about clothes right before we went somewhere, I'd say more often than not, that was a thing. So I don't know. I think that it's just, there's a maturing process there, that it's beautiful that a mother gets to encourage her daughters in. I don't think that it's going to be perfect. And, you know, if your daughter's more mature, then she's going to have less of those issues. But if she's not, she's going to struggle with that. I think something my dad did a wonderful job of is always affirming us, telling us we are beautiful. Elisha does this with Lucy. He does it with me. And I just think that I always just felt so confident and secure regardless of how I looked. So that's not to say, we were taught that it's a form of respect to dress well when you go in public and to not be slobbish. And maybe that's why we should have dressed better at home, was because, you know, as I wear my giant sweatshirt, because it's a form of respect.
Hey, that's my giant sweatshirt.
It's true. It's Elisha. So I don't know. What does that mean? What does that mean in this conversation? But I don't know if there's not like some perfect formulaic method in my opinion, or my experience, that's just going to magically take that away. I think that it's a growing, a maturing, a finding confidence in the Lord, a maturing and taking care of yourself. I would encourage your girls to take care of themselves. And I would say a huge part of what they take away from their femininity and their womanhood is how you respond to that. So if you're getting dressed for the day and you're putting yourself together, your girls will take that away from their home. Even if it's not in practice what they do consistently, it's going to be something that they aspire to and that they admire, and that will stick with them. And I also think if you're overly, concerned about your looks, constantly commenting on a wrinkle here, an eyelash out of place here, a gray hair there, an extra pound here, and that's constant, they're going to pick that up as well. And you really see, it is true, like mother, like daughter. They say if you, I don't know, did you ever hear this, that when you're looking for a girl to marry, look at her mom?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
So I don't know if I can ever be half of who my mother is, but I feel like just growing up, I see so many of her traits that I got via osmosis that I didn't realize, that I wasn't even enacting at home. But just her example is something that I'm still aspiring to today. So I would just, worry about yourself primarily, because that more is going to be caught than taught in this area, and then encourage your daughters how you can.
Yeah, I do think it's nice focusing on that. If you can't have it be others centric from a perspective of respect, not being, not being a people pleaser, or not having this fear of man in you, or like, oh, do they approve of me? Do I have the best style? Do I have the best name brands? Or am I the prettiest in the room? According to other people's standards. But thinking of honoring the host, honoring your guests, if people are coming over, by putting yourself together. And that's going to vary on some levels. I think some personalities are going to gravitate towards wanting to really be the ones that doll themselves up and want to be the prettiest girl in the room and get the guy's attention in that way, or anybody's attention in that way. And I think there are going to be some girls that just are like, they don't want that type of guy to like them, and so they're not going to be that type of girl, right? And
like more showy, even if it's not like in an immodest way.
Yes, exactly.
There are men that want showier women, and there are men that don't. Outside of modesty, I think. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I do think that like modesty, where it has a wide
range, you know.
It does. It has a wide swath because it's being appropriate in the situation.
Yeah.
But I'm saying even within the acceptable range
Yeah.
of dress, not wearing a swimsuit to a tea party, right?
Mm-hmm.
Within the appropriate range of wearing the appropriate thing, there are going to be women that are more muted and prefer that, and men that prefer that, and women that are more flamboyant, maybe
Yes.
in their presentation.
Yeah.
I think that's a style thing more than a
Yes.
appropriateness level.
And
Does that make sense?
I agree. And I think both of those styles will require coaching from one perspective or the other, right? One being like, hey, like you need to tone it down a bit, because of the way you're drawing attention to yourself isn't going to it's not going to get the attention of the type of guy you do want. And then maybe on the other extreme, it's like, hey, you should put a little more effort in that person might be like, I don't care to, and you're like, well, the person that you actually like and that you want to have like you would care about that.
And even outside of a guy thing and attracting a spouse just for the sake of everyone else
Say it's
around you as well.
professionalism.
Exactly.
It's just like
Yes.
straight up professionalism or like ministry, like just being, hygiene, where you're kind of like, hey, Gene, like hygiene, let's get, let's make this pleasant for everyone.
Nice. Yeah, I think hygiene's really big. I think that's a non-negotiable for men and women, honestly. But since we're talking women here, I would encourage your girls in that, because that is something that everyone will be blessed by as a baseline. And I do think, I think this is just going to be different. I don't know. I mean, I can go into like our personal, like growing up, there's a first half and a second half in my family. Okay. So the second half of the girls are a lot more stylish, and they've got great style. Some of them are very artistic and great with that. Us first set of girls, we weren't allowed to really be stylish. And my father really wanted this classic presentation. So he wanted my mom to be classic. He wanted us to be classic. And I definitely kicked against that growing up. I wanted when culottes were in, I wanted culottes and tall boots. And I wanted the thing that was the it thing. If it was the color turquoise, I wanted turquoise and zebra or whatever, which was when I was in high school. But now I really admire that and respect that. And I think that that's probably something that we would lean more towards with dressing Lucy, is just encouraging her in classic tastes. And then what's funny is we were really light on makeup too growing up, in terms of, I think I wore mascara for the first time at 18. Elisha finally noticed me at 18, so probably should have put that on a little earlier. But I know everybody is different. There's different styles of, even within like Christianity, like some women do not wear makeup. They do their hair, but there is a difference regardless of what type of woman or what type of belief system she has, of when she's put together and when she's not. And I think that when our girls go out in public or whatever, we do want them to be put together as a sign of respect. And for me, that comes with putting on makeup, because that's just what I associate it with it. And again, I've shared this before too, but I had a well-intentioned person come up to me and say, "You're beautiful without makeup. You don't need to wear makeup, when you come in public." And it's funny because I was like, this isn't stemming from an insecurity thing. It's stemming from, I'm getting dressed to go in public. And so I'm putting myself together for this event. It's out of respect for the event. I'm doing my hair and makeup, not because I'm, insecure or trying to hide something. So I don't know. This is a whole bag, and it takes wisdom, because everything leads into everything else. Yeah.
And then who knows people's psyche behind this thing, because we're all living either like in reaction to something maybe that we've grown from, or or in response to something that we think is good, like if having the mindset of like, well, I don't really care how I look, that doesn't determine who I am. It's like, but other people do. And so having that balance of like, I get that you don't care, and I'm grateful you have that confidence in who you are, but other people do care about how you look.
It's caring for other people. Actually, it shows care for other people.
Right.
Because even if other people care how we look, that's not even why we're doing it. We're doing it out of respect, right?
Yeah.
For other people.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah. I mean, most jobs have a dress code, right? It's for like an element of professionalism and showing that you like are dialing it in here. Like I'm showing up for this purpose. I'm going to honor my boss, honor my customers, honor my coworkers. And you can kind of take that same approach into many environments, I think.
Yeah. My dad was actually a big coach in this. because I think he had a big opinion with how his daughters were presenting, and I admire him for that because it was not an easy battle to pick. It would be much easier to just throw in the towel. But he was like, when you girls come away from a conversation with someone, I want them to think, wow, she was a beautiful woman with the joy of the Lord. And I want them to think about you as a person. I don't want their first thought to be like, wow, she was wearing a, Chanel sweater. Mm-hmm. And so that is something, staying away. Growing up, we stayed away from name brands. There were just things that would call attention to that specific. And I'm not saying this is not a moral code. So it was just something in our home that we did that I think I respect now. Mm. And I do think I kind of kicked a little bit against that when I first got married, because I do like unique pieces. And so I was able to buy whatever shoes I wanted. Like I got creative with the shoes, basically. And then I wore these classic dresses before I got married. Then after I was married, I got things like I got these white bell-bottom pants. And I'm not saying I'm never going to get white bell-bottom pants again. But I remember Elisha, I wouldn't if Elisha didn't want me to. But I remember you telling me, like, I don't like the statement pieces. Like, if everyone's going to be like, that one thing you're wearing. And so anyways, I dropped the statement pieces a few years into marriage.
Yeah, I know. And you enjoyed that. I felt very honored that you did that on my behalf.
Well, I think that was wisdom and maturity on your part, but it is fun to be creative with clothing as well.
Thanks. Okay, one last question.
Okay.
It says, hello, I would love to hear you both discuss the history of homeschool / education. Why are you guys so convinced that all Christians should homeschool? How did education look in the olden days, and how did it evolve into what it is now?
This question is a total setup. I love it. I would love to hear the history of home education. Wink, wink, when they were going to those one-room schoolhouses. What about that? Okay, can I just say a statement before we start in? We do not believe that everyone should be homeschooled. So that is a myth. I don't think everyone should be homeschooled. Like, for sure.
I'm not going to say we've never said that. I've tried to make a point to say, and our listeners can fact check us. I'm sure I've probably said every Christian should homeschool or something like that. But I've tried to make a point to say for the last 3 or 4 years that every Christian should have Christian education for their children.
Yeah, every Christian should give their child Christian education.
Yeah, I don't think every Christian needs to homeschool their child, but I do think every Christian needs to give their children a Christian education.
Yeah, I believe that we believe that as Christians, stewarding our children to go and send them to a pagan institution is not doing our job as parents in terms of educating them.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, you don't pay. That's usually why people, at least here in the U.S., send their kids to public schools, because it's included in their taxes.
Pain slipped in there. But we shouldn't provide that.
Yeah, because we're paying for those kids to go, whether we like it or not.
No, that was not. Sometimes I say things that I don't realize. The whole forget it. Scratch the pay word, okay? Delete. Providing our children with a pagan education is not what we're called to, not anywhere in Scripture. We see walking with the sinner, sitting with the scorner is something to be
avoided.
We see this all through the Proverbs. We see that who we are around, we become like. The wise men foresee the evil and hide themselves. The simple pass on and are punished.
Yeah, the fool hath said in his heart, there is no God.
Yes, and there's so many verses about being educated by fools, and that is absolutely who's educating our children in the public school system here in America.
We're not talking about the individual, because we know tons of people
there's wonderful teachers
that are incredible individuals that teach in the public school. We're talking about the system itself is a fool system. It is teaching foolishness regarding the whole worldview, regarding everything, because of its secular worldview. It denies God tries to avoid God, then eventually denies God in the outset. And so you can't. God touches on every topic, and I think that's a lie. It's like, it's just, people say it's just math, right? You're like, no, God made math. Mm-hmm. Like, our kids need to know that, right? Like, if they're going into any of the any of the hard sciences, they need to know that God is over all these things, and they learn it from a Christian perspective.
And the humanities.
Yeah,
and
especially, I think, I mean, I say that from a guy that doesn't know any of the hard science, but it seems like especially with the humanities, or the social sciences. Yeah.
Yeah, it's imperative for us as Christians. And when you look at children and how they are affected, your child is not a missionary. You're putting your kid out there as a sacrificial lamb, and that is an inappropriate job as a parent. You're supposed to protect that child. And it's just they aren't ready to be missionaries at 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 years old. So because of that, we have a very hard stance. And I mean, you're free to disagree, obviously.
Yeah, going back to the missionary thing,
but
I think a lot of the teachers that we know are those missionaries.
Yes,
which
is a wonderful position for them to be
right.
in.
They're actually having an impact on individual children who other Christians wouldn't have access to, right? Other Christians wouldn't have access to these Christians who are from broken homes and are living in poverty, and they are an inevitable. They're going to be in the public school system, right? Because of the way our world is right now, in our country. And so having these teachers in place, they truly are a missionary. It's not our children's responsibility to be a missionary. What a huge burden and responsibility to put on your child. I just don't think that children are meant to bear that burden. It's not fair at all. Yeah.
So that said, that's where we draw the hard line, I feel like, for ourselves, and that we put on other people. So absolutely, I just don't see the other perspective at all, and I don't really have a lot of grace for it. But that said, within a Christian education, Elisha's mentioned this a lot of times, we can homeschool and still not give our children a Christian education.
Right.
It's not a guarantee that because they're in our home, they are getting a Christian education. So that is something that's on us as homeschoolers that we need to be really cautious of and wise and discerning. And the other thing is, not all parents should homeschool because not all parents can educate their children academically. Not all parents have that bandwidth. No, we're at a unique time in history where women have no help in the home. And we do have machines that can help us, but we still carry the mental burden for those machines. I guess technically you'd probably carry the mental burden too for the people that you are managing. But we have to holding babies, nursing babies. There's no nursery help. There's no cleaning help. We're cooking, we're managing our homes, and we're like, oh, hey, and you're educating your child. I just think, and you're disciplining the toddlers, and it's just a ton. If your husband's entrepreneurial, you're helping him in his business. And I don't think that every mother, especially considering the number of children that the Lord may bless her with, has the bandwidth to be able to academically educate her children. And now some parents go, okay, well, that's okay. We don't care about academics so much. We're just going to educate them in other things, and they're going to figure it out as adults.
And we're going to avoid the public school.
So we're going to avoid the public school. Yeah. We're going to just kind of avoid academics in general, and that's just how we're going to flow.
Which you would say it's worth probably avoiding the public school, yeah?
Yeah, I'm saying I'm not discussing the public school anymore. Okay. I'm saying the public school is out. That's a big red X, okay? So I'm saying then on the other side of the Christian education side, within the options here, right?
Yep.
I admire those parents that are like, hey, we've got to cut something out here, and this is what we're choosing to cut out. Mm-hmm. I know a ton of kids that were raised this way, and they go on to become very wonderful parents, and they can provide, and they make it work. And you know what? Life's harder for them in some areas, but I do think it's way better that they were raised that way. That is in line with the mandate that God gives us as Christians, not the other. I don't want my kids to be able to do trigonometry and not have a faith in God.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just, or to not have been discipled all those years.
Right. Yeah, have a weak faith.
Exactly. It'd be lukewarm.
Yes.
So I do think that's huge.
Yes.
What would you say on that?
Are we
aligned so
I
far?
agree with all those things. Going to the hypothetical person that maybe said, okay, we're not going to do the academic thing, but bring our children up. Not only do we see those people provide well, I think they're better off than a lot of the alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
And
they grew up with loving parents, Lord willing, they grew up with wonderful sibling relationships. They have good interpersonal skills. They have other strengths. So I'm not saying that that's a loss at all. But for a parent that wants to educate academically and with these other areas, I don't think that's feasible for every parent. And I say that because that's what I'm trying to figure out right now. Okay. What we're trying to figure out right now is keeping a high academic standard and also keeping life rolling. And I'm just like, I consider myself a far above average energetic person, and that I feel like I was blessed genetically to have a lot of bandwidth, and you do as well, and we are maxed. And so I'm kind of like, I'm not here judging anybody in terms of people trying to do their best. And I think there's a wonderful place for Christian schools, for church schools, for private schools, for other people to step in and help in that area. I think it's a beautiful gift. And again, it's not feasible for every parent, but I think it's a wonderful option.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm not anti any form of Christian education. And like this gal mentioned, there have been numerous different variations of schooling throughout the years. And I mean, if you want to go, I think we all go to 1800s, right? In the schoolhouse, the one-room schoolhouse that was like 4 months a year with one teacher. But if you want to go back further, I would actually argue homeschooling is what happened. You had either the poor classes that were uneducated and could not read or write if your mom couldn't teach you or your dad couldn't teach you. And then you had the aristocrats who had tutors. So it was still in-home based instruction. And if you want to go back really far, that's what my history tells me.
Cool.
I don't know.
That's great.
That's great.
Talk to you next time, folks. Bye-bye.